This episode of the Oh No 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 podcast is sponsored by Dynamic Industrial Services, the rope access specialists. The roof of the South Stand at Starch Park is some 19 metres above the pitch, the same height as 11 Aidan Connolly's. But as we all know, there's only one Aidan Connolly, and so you'd be much better off with Dynamic Industrial Services. DIS specialise in working at height, offering a range of services including maintenance, inspection and repair. To find out more, visit dynamicindustrialservices.co.uk.
Hello and welcome back to another Thursday night episode of Oh No No No, the Raith Rovers podcast. We have got a jam-packed edition for you tonight as we look forward to the Scott Brown showdown when the Rovers travel to Ayr on Saturday. We'll also talk through the long-awaited and long-teased arrival of Lee Ashcroft to bolster the Rovers' defence. And we also have the very exciting debut of a brand new segment. So I am Duncan Cameron, and joining me this evening I've got Graham Meldrum first of all. How are you, Graham?
I'm feeling quite. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm excited. Looking forward to the mountain coming to Muhammad this weekend.
Excellent, absolutely. We're all heading your direction. We've got Robbie Weir too. How are you, Robbie?
Yeah, happy to be back on what YouTube comments called was Scotland's best looking podcast, was it? A very nice comment to receive. Thank you.
Yes,
I don't know if it was directed at me, but I'm claiming it.
The delusional still have access to YouTube. That's good.
It is very weird that they're watching on YouTube, but that's the benefit of it.
Scott Fleming's here too. How are you, Scott?
Yeah, very well, mate. Cheers.
Fantastic. And we've got Blair Hopcroft as well. How are you, Blair?
Very well, mate. Looking forward to this.
Excellent. So I'm gonna flip things around a little bit because normally we'd jump straight into the game that we're going to preview, but instead I think let's talk about Lee Ashcroft because we've had to wait long enough. I think it's a good 6 or 7 weeks since it was first sort of rumoured. And it was a fairly substantial rumour as well. You know, a lot of the time you find that you're kind of piecing bits together. This one seemed to have legs from pretty early doors, but then obviously Dundee had a bit of an injury crisis, and Ashcroft ended up playing a good few games, scored against Aberdeen as well. But I think in the end up, now that he's here, that's actually a huge advantage. I mean, he wasn't like he was out of place or just filling in gaps in that Dundee defence. He was doing well and played in some decent results. So just to kind of kick off the kind of discussion on Lee Ashcroft, Robbie, throw you into the deep end. Do you think Ian Murray will do the same for Lee Ashcroft? Do you think he'll start on Saturday?
It's tricky to say because the performance against Dundee United was very resolute defensively, more resolute than we've seen in recent, probably over the last month or so. You saw Keith Watson come in, done very, very well. Liam Dick did have a really, really good game on Friday. James Brown slotted in nicely. And then you've got Ewan Murray. There's been a bit of speculation that Ewan Murray might have needed shoulder surgery, but how true that is, I mean, we've seen all manner of rumours floating about, whether it's the last month or over the course of the season. So he's the type of player that it's just great to have him. A league-winning centre-back that can add a goal threat and just someone that's not going to mess about is the type of player that you think, that's the type of player that you can get on board with when you see signing. Absolutely delighted that we've got him on board, and even better that Dunfermline were seemingly trying like bears to get him in, and then he's decided don't really fancy a relegation scrap. I'm going to come along the A92 and go for that team that's 1 point behind the title race. In you come, Lee. Welcome to Rovers.
Quite right. I mean, even setting aside the fact that it's incredibly funny and definitely enjoyable, he's not the kind of player that belongs in ninth place in the Championship. He's just not. Like, he's well above that quality-wise. Blair, coming to you next. What do you think Lee Ashcroft's going to bring that maybe that we don't have already?
Actually, I don't think he'll bring anything we don't have. I think he brings more of what I like about some of the defenders that we have. He's one of those blood and thunder defenders. Like, he's, as Ian Murray said in his interview just today, like, he's a centre half. There's no airs or graces about that. The guy's a centre half. I really enjoyed his interview, actually, when he sat down with Davy Hancock, and just everything he said was everything I want to hear as a football fan. You know, I'm a winner. I like training hard. I like dragging the standards up. I like everybody around me to work hard, and I like to kind of hold them to account. He talked about, you know, helping the younger boys and kind of helping to develop them. He's won the league before. He's experienced. He's a great addition. And actually, I think Robbie hit the nail on the head last week, because I don't actually think we need him. Like, in terms of for the starting 11, it's not a position at the moment we're desperate to fill. But when a player like Lee Ashcroft becomes available, you don't hang about, and you certainly you didn't make him go to Dunfermline. You give him the option. I have to say, I've no idea if it's true or not, but my favourite story this week is that he was halfway up the A92 to Dunfermline, and Potsy phoned him and basically convinced him to turn around mid-drive. And I know for a fact...
Just sweeps round via Hill of Beef, comes out,
true.
back up by Cowden Beef.
I know it's almost certainly not true, but I love it. I love it all the same.
It's all right, though. They've signed a boy who's 27, has played less than 150 games, and was last seen getting scudded 6-0 off Kelly's reserves. So, well done, James.
I was saying this today, like, we did the Livingston game, right? And we talked about how rank rotten their back three was, and that became a back four. And, like, that seemed to be a real weakness for them, was their defenders. This boy doesn't get a game for Livingston in defence. Do you know what I mean? Wow.
Yeah, but listen, that's enough about Dunfermline. We talked about Dunfermline too much on this podcast. I mean, they didn't half make it easy, I'll tell you that much, but we'll try and move past it. So, I said already, you know, we kind of had to wait a while for Lee Ashcroft. And I think that really goes back to Dan O'Reilly and the sort of situation with Dan O'Reilly where, you know, an offer was made, but it was very clear that whatever else was going on, the Rovers certainly didn't feel either that they could or that they wanted to really sort of push the boat out. It's evident by the fact he now plays for Partick Thistle. With the fact that Lee Ashcroft has now arrived, albeit a good, you know, kind of 5-6 weeks down the line, Graham, do you think that, two-part question, do you think that kind of justifies that decision, and do you think Lee Ashcroft is an upgrade on Dan O'Reilly?
Totally justifies the decision. I think he's an upgrade. I think it's hilarious, right? I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Now, normally when you've got a city rival, all you hear from the media and the press is, it'll be great to bring the derbies back. Yeah? When Rangers were on their journey, when Dunfermline were coming up, I think Dundee are having a great time being the top team in Dundee. Yeah? And I think they're just having a laugh, sending us all these players that we're going to put in the team. It's going to put pressure on Dundee United, so Dundee stay the top dogs in the city. I think it's brilliant. It's refreshing. It's fantastic. It's the way to do it. I don't want a league rival anymore with the team in the same city. Keep them down there. Yeah, let's do all we can to keep them down there. So I think maybe the 5-week delay is because we've been ranked rotten, and Dundee have gone, well, actually, they're blowing it themselves. Oh, look, they're coming up. They're putting a wee bit of pressure on United. Let's put some more fuel on that fire and let's go. Yeah, we're going to be the top dogs in Dundee for a wee bit longer because we're getting all these players to Raith Rovers. Love it. Bring it on.
It wouldn't surprise me if there's sort of some truth to that though, Graham, because from Dundee's perspective, if you've got a chance to... United are in the muck financially. Like, there's no two ways about it. Even if they go up, they're still going to be very much toiling. Dundee themselves are looking at building their new stadium at Camperdown. Is it a real chance for them to sort of really stake a claim for the first time in however many generations, probably since the 60s, to become a dominant force in the city?
Yeah.
So if you chuck out players like Ashcroft, Byrne, Ruddin, who admittedly aren't getting many games, they were out of sorts, Ashcroft less so because he'd been used recently, it's a real chance for them to stake a claim in that city to sort of say, actually, we can kick our rivals square in the walls. And
I feel sorry for Lee Ashcroft because apparently the medals were handed out on Friday. So I feel sorry that he's actually missed getting his 2 league medal winners in a row. Apparently finishing second to being a point behind folk means you won the league. But who knew?
My favourite bit with that, actually, just really quickly,
Scott,
because obviously Twitter's been a cesspit this week. No, I was going to say, sorry, that was the guy that put up that he didn't know. I didn't know that you could win the league whilst in second place. And somebody pointed out to him that we're a point behind him, we still to play them. So we literally can win the league from this position. If we win all our games, we win the league.
There definitely, there has been a fair bit of fun, mostly at Jim Goodman's expense in the last week, and rightly so. And that actually, sorry, let's take a quick detour because this is the Rovers with they put up that clip of Jack Hamilton smashing the goalie to bits. Well, not to bits. He was fine, which is the main thing. We all were glad he's fine. Very funny, as far as I'm concerned. There was a fair bit of peril clutching in like one half of Dundee and one radio DJ. Scott, any part of you sees any kind of issue with that? Is there any concerns that the Rovers are clipping out foul play?
I don't know. I kind of think Murray summed it up pretty well. Like in his interview, he kind of brought it up and said, "Look, we're just embracing it all this season." Andy Barrowman actually did really well during the week to come out and say, "Look, we're fully expecting to get so much abuse if we either don't get promoted or just stuff doesn't go our way." Like we've fully embraced that, but at the same time, the whole club, the fan base, the players, the coaches, everybody knows that with what we've done on social media this season, we've put ourselves out there big time this year, and people have cottoned on to it, and folk have actually started hating us more, and it's been quite funny. But like, it's just, I didn't know that there would be so many people could actually hate us, because to me, in most of the time that I've supported the Rovers, we've been kind of not irrelevant, but like not many folk will talk about you. See, nearly on a weekly basis, somebody's talking about us. So for me, that means that clearly we're doing something right. But yeah, I still think it was an absolute game changer at the time, the tackle, and it really was because the crowd went mad. And so I don't see the keeper wasn't badly hurt. He was straight back up, trying to pretend that he was up for it. But he really wasn't. So, to
be fair, he was getting lifted up about a foot in the air by Aidan Connolly. So,
I think it's as it is. It's a bit of banter. Whether Dundee United fans can take a laugh, clearly not. But it's. I just find it hard to think that anybody. It's different if he had got badly injured, I think. But he was back up and playing. He was back up and playing. His studs went up. It was just him. It was Hamilton clearly going, right, this is my chance to probably actually get the crowd going a wee bit. And he did that, so fair play.
Can I just say, see if we get promoted, by the way, and we're going away to clubs like Rangers, Celtic, Hibs, Hearts, Aberdeen, and we're doing this on social media, it will be hysterical, right? it will be absolutely hysterical if Raith Rovers, just from Kirkcaldy, getting a wee bit big for their boots, and we're going away and rustling the jimmies of every other club, a la Greenock Morton, but on social media. I will 100% take that. It would be beautiful to see. And to be honest, I far rather that than, I know that Blair, you've said before that I'll pull your line for you doing the socials, that before the club were very much like a toe the line.
Powder dry.
We wouldn't want to do that. Keep the powder dry is the perfect way to put it. Just don't get into any trouble. Scrap that, man, because it makes it so much more interesting. Whether it's for fans of opposition clubs, like you see with Livy, Andy Barrowman touched on that and says when Livingston came out after the win, you have a chuckle about it because it is very, very funny. But why not be a bit daft? Why not embrace it and just get involved? Because it's promoting the game. Ultimately, it gets more people talking.
I really like the bit for. Sorry, I was going to say the bit for Rory Kilgour. He was talking. I don't know where I saw it. It might be in our group chat. But Rory had put up about how he'd actually had one of the sponsors contacting him to say thanks because their board was in the background. I don't know if it was that video or one of the goal clips or what it was, but it was one of the wee clips that the Rovers had put up. And obviously they get hundreds of thousands of views now. I mean, that video...
Forge Daily Legal must be absolutely roaring with laughter. They've had about 1 million engagements on Twitter. I don't know how they're just not a legal empire in Kirkcaldy. It's like the suits of Kirkcaldy.
But the thing is, see, when it comes to now companies going, do I want to sponsor the Rovers? You're thinking, well, aye, of course I do, because these little 30-second clips or 10-second clips are getting viewed hundreds of thousands of times, and the Rovers are not afraid to put them up. No matter what the content, they're actually just not afraid to put anything up anymore.
But maybe you're going to associate yourself with a toxic brand like Nestle when Jack Hamilton's just bodying goalkeepers left, right and centre.
Tremendous.
But it's just, I think, I mean, listen, this goes far beyond just the Rovers and just this week, but I think some people do need to remember that it is just the internet.
Yeah.
And that it was just a video of something that had already happened in the past. Like,
but
it was like every time you pressed play, that goalie was in his house, like, they clattered it the way again.
Borderline assault.
It was just a video. Like, it's fine. Oh, you can actually just not watch it if you're bothered, really. But listen, we've talked about it a lot, but it's good fun. It's funny fantastic. And it's part of the entertainment. And again, like if you find yourself getting wound up with stuff like that just must be an incredibly tense way to exist in the world, if that's the kind of thing that winds you up. It's absolutely fine, as you see. You get it back. Good. Really? Like
if you are that tense person, I'm absolutely here to watch it. I'm just here, just having a laugh. It's great.
Yeah, exactly.
I just keep thinking, how good must your life be if that's what really riles you up? Like, that's a nice place to be, right? Your life is so good that Jack Hamilton borderline assaulting a goalkeeper on a Friday night and us putting it on Twitter has somehow ruined your life. Good for you. Move on.
Yeah.
Really, Craig Sibbald have someone on our touchline, not a mention though, but it was.
To be fair, that did wind me up. I was furious at the time.
Turns out it's different, eh?
Right, I think that's the one result.
But he was in Tangerine, Blair. Come on,
rampant hypocrisy. Just one thing, I just want to pull you up for there, Robbie, when you said that if we get promoted, you're making us sound like a Dundee United podcast there, mate. We just need to keep a wee cap on that.
Yeah. When
16 points, 17 points, was it?
Yeah. Well, where do you want to win the league? Just pipe down a wee bit. Right, let's get back to the matter at hand then. So, the Rovers go down to Ayr on Saturday. Now, Scott Brown, the lesser Scott Brown, has been in charge at Ayr for 4 games now. So they beat 10-man Queen's Park at Hampden. They lost narrowly to Dundee United. They lost 2-0 to Rangers at Ibrox, and then did pretty well, to be fair. And then they beat Airdrie 3-2 last week, thanks to an Anton Dowd's hat-trick and some frankly wild defending and goalkeeping in that game as well. Graham, I'm going to come to you as our man on the ground in Ayr. Give me your take on sort of what Scott Brown's done so far, and sort of what the general feeling seems to be down there with the impact he's made.
It seems to be around the fact that he's not going to take, I'm going to say no prisoners, but that's such a terrible cliche. He's not going to take any shit. I believe 8 minutes into the Queen's Park game, our friend Sean McGinty made a right clown of himself. And the first thing Brown did was give him a mouthful and then send his centre half that was on a substitute bench out to warm up. So he's not going to take poor performances. Charlie Albison had that horror show against Dundee United and then was immediately dropped for the next game. So he's not taking things like that lying down. My biggest concern for Saturday, and it's nothing to do with the game or anything like that, it's the fact, well, it's not a concern actually. I'm actually quite glad we're going to be behind the goals. Yeah. Because I just fear for some of the absolute clowns in our support and what they'll shout at Scott Brown. Yeah. Okay, he's played for Celtic. We all get it. He was Celtic captain. Yeah. And it's on the line with when we go to Capello. Now, I'm not saying we should get the fashion police out in the Raith support, but there's a few guys who will shout non-stop at Dougie Emery because it looks as though he shops in Matalan. Yeah. I've no idea if he shops in Matalan, but I'll tell you, see the next time Dougie Emery goes to shop in Matalan, he's as well taking the 3 or 4 clowns with him. Right? Maybe they've got an upgrade in their attire. So that would be a good thing. So, maybe some guys in our support need to have a look in the mirror before they leave the house. Anyway, I don't want to go on another tangent.
Just body in our own support.
Exactly. Come on, guys. You're out on a Saturday. You're coming down to here. Show a bit of, sartorial elegance. The thing I have noticed is he's making AR, come back to Scott Brown, he's making AR more resolute, but I feel they've still got the same players. Now, they've bought the guy Sanders. I'm trying not to say Colonel Sanders for KFC because that's putting us down another rabbit hole. But he's brought him in, but he's still got the same problems. He's still got the same problems at left back. Paddy Redding's good, and then he's horrible for about 8 games. He got an injury. The guy that injured, he played right back and hit Sam Stanton's away. Masonda played a bit of the game there on Saturday, so I think he's moving Masonda there. So I think Sanders is maybe coming in centre half. So I think he's making him better at the back. But again, the problem we had against them is Chalmers, is Dowds holding the ball up. But I think if we play 2 centre halves against Dowds, he's not going to get as much change. Because you could see him when he played against us both times, he's gone to Scott Brown. So I think if we've got 2 centre halves against Anton Dowds, we'll hopefully nullify Dowds. And then it's down to what else they can do. And what we do, and we'll come on to it later, that the team we put out, which, is just like, as we all know, it's just like a tombola, to be fair. But he seems to just be making them a wee bit more streetwise, and he's not taking crap performances. If you play crap, you're not playing the next week, which is good to see from any sort of manager, to be fair.
Yeah, there seems to be some kind of rumours swirling around about their goalkeeping situations. As you say, he'd kind of already in his 4 games, he's kind of swapped back and forth between Charlie Albinson and Robbie Much. But I think Albinson's injured now, and Much went off injured in their last game. And it just feels like they really owe us one in this department. And if they just play without a goalkeeper, that would be fair. Like equals pequals. Just like we promised, we'll only win 1-0 as well. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up actually playing in goal for them. Right, Blair, give me your thoughts kind of going into this one. Anything you want to say on Ayr United and indeed on the Rovers going into this one?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one for me because it's obviously a different side to what we played last. But actually, Ayr at home, that 4-4 game, were actually quite impressive at times. I mean, they bullied us. Physically, they bullied us. Literally, they bullied us. But they also played some pretty decent stuff, particularly in the second half. and really came at us. The boy, is it Francis Armity or something his name is, the sort of winger, but he doesn't seem to be getting a sniff under Scott Brown. So I don't know if he's been injured or if he's just kind of out of favour. But we didn't seem to have an answer for him. So it'll be interesting to see that. There's obviously Chalmers as well. He'll be raging because medals were handed out and his parent club will be upset about that as well. So he'll probably have a wee point to prove, I'm sure. But Dowds is obviously scoring goals. Possibly the worst hat-trick I've ever seen last week from Anton Dowds. I mean, no disrespect to Anton Dowds. He had 3 chances. He took his 3 chances. Do you know what I mean? You didn't get any extra points for goals being good, but it was billed as a... So it was like, what a hat-trick from... No, it was rotten. Absolutely rotten. But yeah, I think I've got a sneaking suspicion that Scott Brown's going to do a really good job with them. I think he's got all the makings of a really good coach. He doesn't strike me as being half as thick as what people think he is. It's almost like for 10, 15 years he's played this character, this shaven-headed Scott Brown character, and that character's been put to bed. I think he's actually relatively intelligent. He knows what he's doing. He's played football at a good level. He's played under some good managers and he's played with some really good footballers. So I would expect him to kick on. I don't think he'll be at Ayr for long, but I can see him doing a decent job. So genuinely quite intrigued actually about Saturday. I think we come in obviously off the back of a win, fully fit squad. They're a bit in transition, so it's got all the makings of a pretty good game, I think, actually, to be fair.
I think so. It's,
Sorry, I'm having trouble connecting.
as I say, he's had 4 games so far, but it's very difficult to kind of judge on those 4 games.
Scott, is that your Alexa talking to you?
Additional noise coming from
Somebody's triggered that. I don't know.
We'll find out who Alexa thinks is going to play right back.
Alexa, play Jordy Munro.
I hope that works for everybody. Your crisp new mic, that'll be across the country. Got a wave of Jordy Munros. Yes, actually, I think it's going to be interesting. So Scott Brown's had 4 games. I think all 4 of them, it's really difficult to get a handle on how much of an impact he's been able to have. Yeah. I would be happier if he'd had almost like 4 or 5 games more up to this point to be able to kind of judge what I think Ayr are going to be like. As you say, they were... That 4 each game was a wild game. Whoever Amarte, I think we'll maybe go with. He get 20 minutes at the end of that game against Airdrie, but I think he'd hardly been seen up till that point. He looked excellent in that game, and I think he's done nothing else all season. Like Aidan McGeady scored in that game. Again, I'm not convinced he's done much else the rest of the season either. Logan Chalmers is the one I'm most concerned about. I think he's genuinely a real standout player at this level. And I agree that hopefully with this central defence we've got available to us now, we'll be better equipped to kind of marshal Anton Dowds, who...
I think the Logan Chalmers one looks even more bizarre after Friday, where United were very poor in the final third. There was no cutting edge there. And Chalmers has been doing that last season, this season, and all of a sudden they're like, nah, horse him out. It's just...
remember saying that, like,
absolutely
after the game at Tannadice, looking at their substitutions and thinking, even if they had Logan Chalmers to bring off the bench, it'd be such a better option. It's exactly the same. You know, even if they didn't have a place for him in the starting lineup, it'd be an improvement on what they had.
We say the same thing about Anton Dowds for Partick Thistle as well. They're crying out for somebody who can play when Brian Graham's coming off after 70 minutes, and he's banging in goals at Ayr. It's like Lewis Vaughan at Dumbarton all over again, but not quite as mental.
I thought we'd agreed never to speak of that again.
I can't help it.
Back to this podcast being therapy again. Right, Scott, take us into lineups, please. Alongside any other kind of stray thoughts you want to give us on this game, and tell us, how you, whatever, who you think you might want to play, who you think Murray's going to play. That's the usual stuff on this.
Yeah, it's as you say, it's so tough to actually pick who. Well, it's so tough to pick because we've got such a good squad now, and pretty much everybody's fully fit as well. So that's one aspect. But the other is actually trying to see what Ian Murray's obviously seeing in training and what he's going to go with. I personally, I wouldn't really tinker with what it was too much from Friday. I would probably, what I would go with is probably, I would make two changes with Friday, and it was, I'm actually going with the team that I wanted for Dundee United game, but he didn't go with.
Robbie, go and just loop in the bit from last week's show. Just edit it back in.
So I'm keeping the same back four. And obviously Big Kevin goals. I don't know obviously how Burns getting on with his injury, with his eye. I think he's alright. Whether he's had any issues with actually seeing anything, I don't know. But I would actually bring in Scott Brown anyway. Like I wanted Scott Brown to play last week. I just think on the part he gives us so much in terms of drive forward. Sean Byrne is a quality football player, but I just think, especially away from home, I'd like to see just that little bit more, I don't know, just drive in the midfield, going forward as well as defending. Like Sean Byrne is tidy, he's really good at like blocking off passes and also winning the ball back and just keeping it calm. I think he's a superb substitute to bring on with 20 minutes to go if you're leading. He's actually the perfect player to bring on in that situation. So I think that's the change I would make in midfield. And then I would probably go with Connolly in for Callum Smith. I think I'm wanting to try Mullen out on this left side, like badly, because I've seen how he did it at Ayr last season. I just feel that it would be worthwhile trying it. Him cutting in on his right and Connolly cutting in on his left. Whether they whip the ball in for a cross for, I've got Rudden up front, or if they just go for a shot. I'd like to see how that goes. But yeah, that's the only two changes I would make, and it is a 4-2-3-1 it works out as.
I'm not a million miles away from that, as you would probably expect. So I've done the same thing. I've kind of stuck with the same defence with a sort of an asterisk to say if there is something up with you and Murray, but I'm not sold on that. I'm not convinced there is, and that's the kind of thing that, see, at the start of the season, if you'd said like, towards the end of February you'll sign Lee Ashcroft, but he can't actually get in the team, even for one game, you'd be like, Christ, what's happened? How's that? How could that be possible? It's a bit like Kyle Turner as well. So as same back four. Again with an asterisk to say as long as his eye's all right, I would be playing Sean Byrne and Scott Brown. I've more or less done what I said last week as well, because I've dropped Lewis Vaughan in order to make that work. And then, but what I am changing from what I said last week is I would actually keep both Josh Mullen and Callum Smith in that 11 based on what they did on Friday night. And I know that I'm continually kind of going to bat for Callum Smith, but I thought he was excellent. I was pleased to hear the manager kind of single him out in his interview today as well. He's obviously been, listening to my thoughts on this, and and rightly so, to be fair. And then up front, I've got obviously Sam Stanton's in at number 10, of course. And then I've kept Zach Rudden. But again, we've said that a few times. That for me is a complete coin toss. If you want Rudden or you want Jack Hamilton, I would not complain either way. Robbie, you next, please. Your thoughts on the game and your thoughts on a starting 11, please.
Yeah, it should be a really tough game here. Looked exceptional when we played them at Starks with 10 men. and I don't doubt that will change, especially under Scott Brown. Fully agree with what Blair said as well, that just for Scott Brown, I think he's had this bit of a reputation and the sort of persona that he's had, but I don't feel there's all that much in it, and that if anything, I've got a lot of respect for him for what he's done. Going to Fleetwood first to take his first job, and then you go down to Ayr, where you could potentially be looking at a top flight job, and he decides, nah, cut my teeth, keep going down at Ayr and work my way up. Because a lot of the time, you look at a manager going into his first job and the CVs that they have, and a lot of the time they walk into their first job at very, very big clubs, and it doesn't always go well. Neil Lennon's a great example. Walked into the Celtic job, like one of the biggest jobs in Scotland, and nobody batted an eyelid. So fair play to Brown for doing it. Keen to see how things pan out across the piece with him. But yeah, for Rovers, to be honest, starting lineup's going to be an absolute lottery. Really, no idea how it's going to go. I've went very similar to sort of Scott, looking at Kevin Goals, Dick at left back. I would bring Ashcroft in from the start. Now, the main thing for me is really Ashcroft and Watson at centre back aren't going to be the paciest, but I think with Dowds, we saw at Starks that he looked very much like the target man that brought others into play. So if you get the two of them absolutely battering them, it's going to be a real battle. But if we can win that, hugely beneficial. James Brown at right back. I would bring Scott Brown back into the team to play with Stanton in the middle if Sean Byrne's not there. And then up top, really it's an absolute lottery, much like the rest of the lineup, where you've got Mullen, I've put in Vaughan, Easton, and one of Hamilton and Rudden. But then you look at the bench and you're going, you've got McNeil, potentially Ewan Murray if the rumours aren't true, Dylan Corr, Ross Matthews, Aidan Connolly, Callum Smith, Kyle Turner. Just the depth in the squad at the moment is unreal. So it's going to be a really, really tough game, but I think that the same can also be said up for Dundee United with Queen's Park going to Tannadice, two teams that are on the up against two teams that are maybe not in the greatest form, but at the other end of the table. So could potentially be a huge weekend, and hopefully we can kick on. We played really well down in the first half down at Ayr in the first game there. Stanton and Easton in particular had very good games, so hopefully if they can repeat that, then long may it continue. Also, what I would say as well about that 4-4 game at Starks, I feel that with that game, we all know Big Kev was injured and didn't really give a great account of himself in that match. So the big man's got a point to prove for me in this game, because I think a lot of their fans will have seen him and says, oh, just shoot on the sides, and that he's a rotten goalkeeper. It's not the case at all. I think that he's been playing injured and he's got a point to prove. So hopefully Big Kev can step up to the mark, and ideally if we can get a clean sheet and then nick a goal somewhere, then ideally come back up the road with a win and see how things are.
Yeah, definitely. Graham, what about you? Anybody you particularly want to see coming into this starting 11?
Easton, Dylan Easton. Ayr finished with Frankie Masonda at right back. I don't think Frankie Masonda is a match for the... Here we go. Probably the famous last words. I think Dylan Easton will have a good laugh against Frankie Masonda at right back.
Ditto.
I think he'll have a good time against him. So I'd like to see that. I think I'd also put, like Robbie, I'd bring Ashcroft in. I think if Ewan Murray's carrying an injury, I think the next two games, our centre-halves are going to get a battering. So we probably want Ashcroft in there, because after Ayr, Tuesday night, it's Morton. You know, that's not going to be all puppies and flowers that game. So I think if he can get a game with Keith Watson beside him beforehand at Ayr. And I know we're ripping up this and we've complained about the same back four hardly playing 3 games in a row, but I think it's worthwhile doing it. Because I think if Ewan Murray goes into that Morton game half injured, you'll come out completely injured. So it's probably looking back, it's probably a good time to sign a centre half actually with these games coming up. And I think I would bring Scott Brown in for Sean Byrne. Just the ability of Scott Brown to bring the ball forward, direct as well. And I think how we carried the ball, and we were pretty direct, carrying the ball down at Somerset Park the last time. So hopefully that goes well. And one for anybody that's listening to this, I have no recollection of going down to Somerset Park twice in a season and winning twice in a season. I don't know if we've ever done it. I know we went for about 16 years without winning down here for a while. So if we do that, fantastic. I'd love that. But I think those are the changes to make. Up front, go with 1 plus Vaughan, whichever one doesn't matter, and change it after an hour.
I think that's fair. Blair, right, you start from the front and work backwards then. Who would you be? Are you Team Rudden or Team Hamilton?
Hamilton, for me. For what it's worth, I think Ian Murray will probably make no changes whatsoever. I think he'll probably play exactly the same 11 as he played against Dundee United. But if it was me, and it's not for very good reason, I would have Hamilton up front with Vaughan off of him. I would also bring in Easton. I thought exactly the same thing. If they're in any way, shape or form not with a recognised right back, we exploit it, and we only really exploit that with Dylan Easton. And I'd have Connolly on the other side, Stanton in the 4 midfield roles in the middle. Scott Brown in for Byrne. Again, agree with Scott's point actually about what you want away from home on a grass pitch. We kind of, I mean, I don't know. Murray said it was a decent surface. I don't ever remember it being particularly lovely, but maybe I'm just misremembering it because the rest of the place is an absolute dive. And then back 4, Dick at left back, Watson with Ashcroft. I think I agree. Again, Graham's completely stolen my thunder there, but I completely agree. I think if there's any niggle at all with Murray and you've got Lee Ashcroft there, rest him. Let him recover. Let him get back to full fitness. If he needs an op or whatever it happens to be, do it, because actually losing him now for 3 or 4 weeks is better than losing him in 3 or 4 weeks for 3 or 4 weeks. Now's the time to do it if you've got Ashcroft there. And then obviously James Brown at right back, and then Big Kev between the 6. So actually quite a lot of changes for Friday night for me, but yeah, someone tells me it's going to be status quo.
The only thing with that would mean that downtown Scott Brown would still be on the bench. I think that would be a bold move from Ian Murray. But listen, he's no shy for them by any means at all. Just a quick kind of additional point on this from me, just because we've not really mentioned it because we've been kind of short on information. There is a Ross Millen shaped elephant in the room, I think, just generally at the moment.
Who?
I think, as I say, we're kind of starved of information.
The KGB are just going to kick in his door and Stalinist regime.
I was actually just thinking about what an elephant would look like if it was trying to put his fingers in its ears there. I really threw myself. So
big fingers and big ears.
Yeah. So basically, I think what we can probably say with some degree of, maybe not certainty, but probability at this point, is it looks like there's been some kind of falling out. I've heard that from enough people at enough different times that would seem to be somewhere near the truth, I would guess. In terms of what happened, what it's about, I've got no idea. I've heard too many different things. But general consensus would appear to be we're not going to be seeing Ross Millen anytime soon. James Brown's obviously come in. I thought he looked decent on Friday night. I would expect that we'll continue to see him. I mean, I hope there's a more positive resolution than that. I would be quite sad if that's how Ross Millen's kind of Rovers career kind of peters out almost. But I think it is just
especially
a case of
this season.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
with everything being so positive around the club, if that's how it ends on a falling out, like it does seem quite sad, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully it's just a bit of a period apart, and that any kind of crosswords can be withdrawn. But I don't know, I'm not convinced.
Like I said at the end of after the Dundee United podcast, it's one of these things where you just got to leave it with the club, because the reality is that these things get skewed so much. Information that happened a week ago might not be relevant now. you hear all manner of sort of things, different people supposedly getting bombed out, and yet some people are playing. Look, it's all speculation, and it's really for the club to sort out. And you know what football fans are like. We're all absolutely like total gossips, completely desperate to get all the inside scoop. One of the things I remember from the fan panel in particular was like you talk to people like Ben and Laura for example, and like the number of like people that are so desperate to get information just by asking about it at the club aren't going to give it away. Let the club respond in their own time, and the situation's changed so much because people 3 weeks ago were saying, why haven't we signed a defender? And we're totally chucking the league. And yet now we beat Dundee United. We've brought in a right back and we've also brought in a centre back. And we're a point behind them. We're no really any worse off than we were before. Still got to play them with 13 games to go. So this is the situation now. We're just going to have to deal with it and just leave it win the club. And that should be it for me. It's a shame if he is gone. People are passionate and I'm sure that both parties think they're right. But at the end of the day, it's a football club and that's the way things can go. And I'm sure that if he does leave, a lot of the fans will have positive memories from his time with us. And it's particularly that game at Hampden. So,
That's it. So we'll wait and see. But either there will be an update or there won't, and fundamentally, we'll never know the full story either way, I'm sure. But I just wanted to mention that just to so that we're not,
I think it's interesting how there was all the rumours. Then we win a game, and the rumours kind of just away they go.
I
absolutely agree, Graham. Fully agree with that.
We've won a game, everything's fine. Doesn't matter. Don't care. Move on.
And that's always going to be the case. So I tell you, let's just do a quick round of predictions, and then we'll move on from this one. Robbie, you first, please.
2-0 Rovers.
Excellent. The elusive win by more than a single goal.
It's got to happen at some point.
Blair, prediction from you, please.
Yeah, I'm not quite so confident. 1 each.
All right. Refrain from booing you on the podcast, but okay. Scott, prediction from you, please.
Yeah, I think it's going to be extremely tight. I think I would have been more confident, obviously, if Bullen was still in charge. I think Browns went in there, as Graham said, and really got more of a defensive structure into them. Whether, obviously, we see slight changes due to injuries or whatever, we don't know. But I'm actually also glad that the young blonde boy that was in midfield for them isn't at them anymore. Is it Jack Young? I think his name is.
Yeah.
He's been recalled by Wickham again. So, and he ran the show when they were down to 10 men. So for me, that's a plus also. So I think we'll just sneak it. I'll go 2-1 us.
All right, and Graham, from you, please, prediction-wise.
I'd say a 2-2 draw. I don't think I've ever seen us win twice down here. So 2-2 draw. They'll be 2-0 up. Just how we scored in the last couple of minutes on Friday, we'll go back to form. They'll go 2-0 up. They'll take somebody important off. We'll score 2 goals. I expect Lee Ashcroft to score one of them as well, to be fair.
I mean, it definitely is a big threat going forward. But yeah, Robbie, I'm with you. I'm going to go 2-0 Rovers as well. And I just feel like, I mean, famous last words, but I just feel like we're now in the position for almost whoever plays to be able to put out a solid defence and then kind of build from that. And my kind of sneaky feeling with this Ayr United team under Scott Brown is there's going to be games where they click and games where they don't. And I think maybe into next season, they'll see if they can kind of put stuff together. But I think their squad is so unbalanced. I don't think it's going to take a huge amount for them to drop away in some games. But equally, like you saw at the weekend there, you know, you've got guys like Anton Dowds, Logan Champ, they get good players who can turn up on a day. But I'm banking on it not being their day this time around. And I'm sticking with 2-0 Rovers. Now, if you are only on the audio feed, you won't have noticed Blair putting on his sparkly game show host blazer, and that can only mean that it's time for our brand new segment, a brand new as yet unnamed segment. But Blair, I'm gonna hand over to you, and you can enlighten us on what's going to happen next.
Thanks, mate. So I've, in true showbiz fashion, I've completely ripped this off from a podcast I used to listen to a few years ago. But I've always enjoyed on a podcast a game, right? So my hope is that for those of you listening and watching it at home, you can join in with the game, right? So it's really, really simple. It's a bunch of clues about a Rovers player, past or present, and with every round of clues, each person on the show only gets to guess once. Okay? Every time I give you a new clue, you can guess again. You can change your guess if you want to, but you only win if you stick with the right answer. Okay? So the first person to get the right answer and stick with it wins. And I'm very much looking forward to all the tweets and the comments in the YouTube saying, I got it on the first guess. Because no, you didn't. But fair enough. Somebody probably will. So yeah, we don't have a name for this. And Graham, I'm really glad you're on the show tonight, actually, because I remember years and years and years ago. So it would have been, I mean, you'll know better than me, but it would have been late 90s, I think.
Yep.
97, 98-ish. There was...
It was earlier than that.
in
It was
the era-
92, 93 it started.
Was it as early as that? So in the era of fanzines, right, there was a Rovers fanzine called Stark's Bark. And I remember as a kid loving Stark's Bark. And it was like printed on like proper copier paper, blue ink. Like it was one of them. It looked like it had been run off on of a certain age, run off on a Banda machine. Like just one of these carbon things where you just keep rotating it around until the pages come out. It was tremendous. But it was kind of tongue in cheek. So Graham, you were am I right in saying you were involved, or your brother was involved?
My older brother was involved. It was him, Grant Sharp, Alex Steele, Paul Gilfillan, and Stevie Watt.
Yeah.
And it was 4 or 5. And I think they came up with it. They went. I'm sure they went a pre-season trip to Ireland, and they came back and said they were going to do a fanzine.
You know what the funny thing is? Brilliant. Stark's Bark would have been a great name for a podcast.
It really would have, actually. But it was proper tongue-in-cheek. But they had these... And I actually had the car sticker. And I remember, Graham, you put this in the chat a few weeks ago when I first floated this idea. But they had this car sticker. And I had it on our car when I was a kid. And it said on it, "Ken them, I've clapped their Doug." Right? So that was the working title for this segment. But given that anybody under the age of, well, 35 to 40 probably at the earliest is never going to have heard of any of this nonsense, we've kind of left it open. So I am genuinely throwing this out there. So I put a tweet out on the show Twitter feed earlier today asking for some ideas. We are going to give a mug to whoever comes up with the best title for the game. We have had a few kind of suggestions already. A very good mate of mine, actually, Craig, has come up with the Armand Oney % Club, which reads as the Armand 1% Club, but obviously pronounces the Armand Oney % Club, which amuses me. We've had Reveal That Rover from Ross Stevenson. A rover where, a rover there, a rover every effing where. That was blanked out for the kids because it's a family show. And that was Stephen Black. Potter's Magic for some John Boy Cantley. They think it's all Rover from Liam Barnett. So there's a few in already. Stick your suggestions in the comments. Send us a tweet, whatever, and we will pick our name for this segment. So I think the idea is that we're not going to do a big question on a preview show. We're only going to do the big question on a Sunday. So this will take that place for a little while. So it's episode number 1 of whatever we're going to call it.
Just leave a gap, and after next week we'll get Robbie to come back and edit in the name of the
jingle.
I was going to say the second competition is going to be a jingle. That's what's going to happen. I want a jingle for this. So, really simple, as I say, I'm going to give you clues. I've got 7 clues, I think it is, to a footballer, past or present, who has played for Raith Rovers. And after every clue, you are welcome to buzz in. Those of you on the show, all you have to do is say your name. I will stop talking. You give me your guess.
I've just got
I'll take a note.
Visions of people on a bus just saying their own name, just like Stevie.
That's what I'm actually hoping for, is somebody sitting and going, yeah, Jimmy, sitting on the bus. I love it. So, we'll give it a go. We'll see how this works out. And if this wasn't very good, we'll just never do it ever again. Is kind of where we're at. Right, so clue number 1. Are we ready, gentlemen?
Yes.
Clue number 1. I was born on the 29th of March, 1987.
Wait a minute, all the cogs are turning.
The first one is to count how old that is.
Exactly.
Right. Can you
Anyone want to hazard a guess?
can you just do you want a guess every time, or can you just go?
Don't need a guess if you don't want to guess.
Right.
If you feel like you might know based on the age, you are welcome to jump in. I actually know for a fact that if there's a certain person I know who shares not only the birthday, but the day, actually born on the same day. So there's a very good chance that my group of mates have already guessed who this is. Okay, I'm going to move it along. I made my professional debut for Gretna and was part of the side that was promoted to the SPL in 2007. This is maybe more
Robbie.
of a video feature because they all look confused. Robbie, go ahead.
Craig Barr.
Okay. Any other guesses?
See, that's difficult because he's handsome, so you wouldn't know if he looks like he's 37, would you?
This is true.
That takes
This is
5
very
years
true.
off him because he's handsome.
Okay, let's go with clue number 3. After leaving Gretna, I played European football for Queen of the South, playing in both legs of a defeat to Danish side Nordjylland.
Good God.
I think Robbie's got it. I think it's Craig Barr as well.
I'm starting to think it might be enough.
Yeah, I can't think of another. I can think of loads of players from that Gretna team. I can't think of any that played for the Rovers.
Okay, next clue. I played for 3 years for Raith Rovers, making only 39 appearances and scoring.
Craig Barr. It's definitely got to be Craig Barr.
Get in there.
Did he play between August and October at all? No.
It's my
Let's hear
nickname,
the next
Mango.
So I'll keep going. I am a centre back and I've played for Livingston, Airdrie, Dumbarton and Cowdenbeath, as well as spending a season in Sweden with Östersunds under Graham Potter. And then, Graham, you'll like this one. Clue number 7. I am a very, very handsome man.
There we go. Yeah.
And Robbie, well played for round 1 of whatever this game is going to be called. After 2 guesses, I am Craig Barr. Well played, mate.
And unlike Raith Rovers, I didn't celebrate too early, according to viewers of a certain chapel.
I did not know he was at Gretna.
Nah,
That
he
was-
was
that
at
was
Gretna
what
right
threw me.
at the start of his career. So
I'll be honest, neither did I, which is why I put it in as a clue. When I looked him up today, I was like, Gretna.
I remember. I do remember seeing photos of him at Gretna. I didn't know that he was at Queen of the South when they were in Europe, though. So that kind of chumped me. But aye,
He
liked how long
he
it
came
took
through
us
at
all to work
Blackburn
out
as
who's
well,
David
which I
Shannon.
didn't know.
aye.
Yeah.
See with the players having the same birthday, or having the same birthday as players. One of my friends from Kinghorn, Craig, born a day after me, and he shares the same birthday, exact same day as Andy Carroll. And we were sitting in the pub on the day that he signed for Liverpool. He's sitting there saying, Craig, he's signed for Liverpool for what, 30, 40 million pounds? What are you doing in your life? And,
Now, we used to say the same. My cousin Mike was born exactly the same day as Craig Barr. So there's no excuse for him not being anywhere near as handsome as Craig Barr, as far as I'm concerned.
Just on the topic of kind of birthdays, I remember when Dylan Corr signed, and it's like Rovers signed defender, comma, like born in 2004.
Yeah.
First of all, it's just like, dearie me, what? But then I also realised that it means that Dylan Corr has only existed in a post-Claude Anelka universe. That must feel
Lucky
magic,
man.
eh?
Lucky
That's just like that's nice, at least. Like,
I actually, to be fair, just to very quickly off topic, I get this all the time now because I'm now of an age. I'm not that old. I mean, I'm 40 this year, but I'm not that old. But I'm now at the age where I can genuinely say to the pupils that I teach, I've been doing this longer than you've been alive, which is so horrible. So
just
horrible.
grey beard down to your
Yeah,
knees,
totally.
shuffling in.
It was one of the new starters in my work, like with the induction, and she was like, "I was born in 2006. Like, what month?" It's like, "Oh, November." And I was like, "So you weren't even alive when the first Arctic Monkeys album came out?" Thoroughly depressing thought.
So yeah, we need a name for this game, and that means that Robbie, you are now the mantle holder. So what's going to happen is next week Robbie has to come up with the clues, and I get to play.
That's nothing
days.
quite like inventing additional work for the podcast and immediately shipping off to someone else.
I'll get that edited in.
I was just going to say, and on that note, Robbie, you're also doing the edit today as well. Thank you, mate. Right, thank you everybody for listening and once again for watching the. Was it the best looking podcast in Scotland?
We'll be the best. Follow my advice. We'll be the best dressed as well. Yeah, up your game, guys.
The best.
more you
If
hear
you're the
that,
best
the more
looking
it-
podcast in Scottish football, that says a hell of a lot about the rest of the podcasts in Scottish
It
football.
wasn't Scottish football, mate. It was Scotland, the nation.
We're all off to Matalan before the game on Saturday as well.
I mean, honestly, the more you hear that, the more it is the sign of a troubled mind. Like that. I don't know if
Or
there's
very
like
low standards.
yeah, possibly. Yeah, I've only ever seen 2 podcasts, and I'm not going to.
This is going to be filled with like reassuring comments of like, "No, but you're all fantastically handsome." In the comments,
No,
I'm
it's not,
sure,
Robbie, not anymore.
absolutely
I
sure.
don't know how many delusional people there are. Right. Anyway, thank you for listening. And I acknowledge that you're watching. Check the show notes and the kind of bit underneath if you are on the YouTube video, because you have links to the Twitter and the Instagram if you want more kind of this level of patter. And you can also send in your suggestions for the name of the game if you want to try and win a mug. And if you're not particularly creative but you would like to just buy a mug, there is a link to the shop there as well. Now, hopefully we do get as many Rovers down to air on Saturday as possible, and we see you there. But regardless, we will be back on Sunday to talk it all through, and kind of a double episode because we'll look ahead to the Morton game on Tuesday night as well. So thank you again, and goodbye.